Going on, Niner fans? How's everybody doing today? Kind of an early mid-afternoon stream for me, but for my guy Paul, I think I'm interrupting his dinner time here. So it's been in the works for a while. I really wanted to have Paul on. Um, I was talking to him off stream saying that, I never realized there was a UK a presence in the 49er fan base until I met Ted, and then through Ted, I was introduced to 49ers, uh, 49er Faithful UK. Let me not mess that up. And so me and Ted have been interacting for a while. We have a presence in the United States. Of course, we travel well. We travel well to Mexico. And now we have this whole other area in the world that I had no idea about in the UK. So for anybody who's watching through 49er Faithful UK and Paul, I appreciate you coming through. It means a lot to me. And I like man, I'm a Niners fan through and through, and that's kind of what's behind this. He's a Niners fan. I'm a Niners fan. Hey, he's from the UK. Let's do this. Let's talk. I want to get his perspective on things, kind of hear how everything that he's part of kind of came to be, and then we'll get into some nitty gritty Niner talk. So who is Paul Hope? And what is 49er Faithful UK?
So I am a fan in the UK, Aaron. So I live in the northeast of England. It's always cold, it's always rainy. The simple answer to why I'm a 49ers fan is in 2011, 2012, Chicago Bears fan started my work. And he was talking about this wonderful and weird game of American football. And we played them on a Monday night when Colin Kaepernick had his first start when Alex Smith was injured. And he was on at me all day at work to watch this game. And I thought, you know what, Aaron, I can't be a Bears fan. So I stayed up till ridiculous time in the UK. So a prime time game for us starts at 1 a.m. So it finishes about 4:30, 5 in the morning. The next day, I strolled into work with my freshly bought 49ers cap on. And my colleague was like, boom, you're an NFL fan. Now, at the time, I felt like I was the only fan in the UK. So my presence on social media wasn't what it is now. And then, as you do, you start searching Twitter, Facebook for fan groups. And then I found my good friend Lee Gowland, who I can see is in the chat. So you may know Lee as the president of the 49er Faithful UK. He is one of my good friends. He was lucky enough to head out to the draft in Vegas a couple of years ago when we
Awesome.
drafted a certain quarterback at 262. Lee was in the audience, and he also managed to go on stage and announce the Samuel Womack pick. So for you guys across the pond, you might be aware that the 49ers have the marketing rights for the UK. So that means we are working closely with Nick Clark and the fan engagement team at the 49ers. So about 18 months ago, Aaron, Nick Clark reached out to me and Lee. And it still feels surreal when you get the invite to the StreamYard, to the Zoom, and then you click in and it's the 49ers organization. And they're like, hey guys, we want to throw a watch party for you in the
That's
UK.
awesome.
So, but yeah, I'm blown away by the support from yourself, Ted, Red Jet Shell is in the chat. And I've made so many friends from this love of American football. And when I went out to the Bay Area in November, Shell will attest. I lived my best life, Aaron. I was posting it all over social media. It was a dream, 10 years in the making, but that is who I am. So thank you for having me on, buddy.
Yeah, I always enjoy discovering new channels, discovering new people and their takes on football. I like the way you guys kind of set your thing up too. You're not always consistently like talking just about the current team and current topics, but sometimes you'll have a whole stream based on, I don't know, favorite players or, whatever. And it's different. And I think that's what makes this whole YouTube thing great is everybody has kind of a different spin on things. It can be kind of boring if you're all doing the same kind of like, oh, I'm doing breaking news, which I do. Um, I'm a little bit of a sarcastic, a little bit of a hothead sometimes. So that's kind of what I bring to it. I'm a little bit unfiltered. So everybody has their niche. And I found it through Ted. I found you guys. I enjoy watching you guys very much. You're very calm and relaxed. sometimes with my brain and the way my mind works, I need to watch a stream where I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm relaxed. Sometimes if you go on a stream and there's a lot of people talking, there's a lot of noise and a lot of people arguing with each other, I get overwhelmed with anxiety and I have to switch off. So I was awesome to meet you. I would love to have Lee on here too. You know what? I think I remember you said he made the pick, right? For Womack?
Yeah, for the summit.
I
So
that's where I recognize his face from.
yeah, so I was supposed to go with him to Vegas, but I'd ruptured my Achilles tendon. So that was one of the worst experiences in my life, getting the email from the Niners inviting the two of us out to Vegas. So I run the social media for the 49er Faithful UK. Twitter is mainly where I am. And about 2 or 3 years ago, Lee handed over the Twitter account to myself because he basically said, look, I don't have time to do it. You seem to have a reach on Twitter. And there's my Twitter handles for both accounts. And I started connecting with people like Ted, people like yourself. We started making the links and then we started getting invited to things. And then when Lee was in Vegas, I had the 49er Faithful UK hashtag trending over the NFL, over the NFL draft. And the reach was amazing. But I appreciate the feedback on our shows because the YouTube element is fairly new. So I said to Aaron off air that we do a podcast twice a week. So we do a preview game of the show, then we do a review game, a review show of the game. But we used to do them as audio only. And about a year ago, we decided to kind of get involved with the YouTube. So when we did our live show, the first 12 months has been a bit of a learning curve. And we were doing what you've said. We were trying to bring to the UK a taste of what's out there. Now, I absorb all the content. I was watching you and Ted at midnight last night. I was watching shows back today when I was working. And not everyone in the UK has time to do that. It's 8:10 in the evening here now. So people in the UK might just watch this show, Aaron, and they might not watch anything else. But we took stock at Christmas and we thought we need the live show to have a different feel. And the show you're referencing is we did a show a couple of weeks ago where we looked at the 2012 Super Bowl team, the 2019 Super Bowl team, and this year's team. And we, to be honest, when we put it together, we thought, will people really enjoy this show? And like you said, the comments were on fire. And it was nice to kind of go back and look at the team we've got now compared to the other teams, because I know we're going to get into the Lions game and the Super Bowl run, but this team we've got are in special. And I'm just so excited for the Super Bowl.
Me too. I'm very excited and I'm also really nervous. There's a lot of 49er fans, younger fans who've never experienced a win. And I've experienced, a couple, but the one I remember the most, of course, was Super Bowl 29 because I was 15 and now I'm 44. So it's been it's been a little bit of time since the last one. And yeah, this team is definitely special. Like I said, we'll get into it. It's all that talk before we had these two comebacks was Kyle Shanahan teams don't come back. And then back-to-back weeks, one in a smaller fashion and then a massive 17-point comeback. Now it's like we got that under our belt. Personally, I don't want to live by the seat of my pants and have to be stressed out and in a state of just absolute panic in every game. I'd rather have them, get the lead early and keep it and then hoping they come back. Everyone's like, oh, if they've done it before, they can do it again. I'm like, you can't live like that, man. You can't go into every game thinking, oh, if we're down 24, we're going to make it back. It doesn't always work. So, but I can't wait. Yeah, I'm nervous, excited. I keep in my mind picturing the time counting down and Brock Purdy,
I'm trying not to get too excited about that because I'm the same age as you. I'm 44 this year, but I started watching the NFL in 2012. So ironically, my love for the Niners was strengthened by that loss to the Ravens. Now, I know everyone watching is going to say, you're crazy. So that was my first year watching. Didn't really understand the game, Aaron. I loved Kaepernick. We got to the Super Bowl. I stayed up till stupid o'clock in the morning. And the heartbreak of that loss, I was walking to work the next day with my Niners hat on. It was the only piece of Niners merchandise that I had. And I got heckled by a bunch of strangers chanting about the Ravens and the Niners got beat. And I found myself arguing with a bunch of strangers in the UK, 5,000 miles away from Levi Stadium. And I thought, if I'm arguing with people over this team, this is my team. And then I got heavily involved with our group. So the 49er Faithful UK, for people who might not know, we're a fan group in the UK. We have a Facebook group, which has about 3,000 members, got a Twitter page, and we've got a YouTube page. And we're just trying to kind of get our community growing, like what you guys have across the pond. And then the 2019 Super Bowl loss, well, 2020, sorry, that stings me more because we had a watch party and there was about 50 to 100 people. And as I said, the Super Bowl finishes at 5 a.m. in the UK. So when the lights came on at 5 in the morning after losing that one, that's why we're pumped up for this one. We want revenge. So knowing people were talking, do you want the Ravens? Do you want the Chiefs? I wanted the Chiefs, and I'll explain when we get into it.
Man, 2013, that year was a crazy year, losing the way they did. So let me think. It was the 2012, 2013 season, right? Where we lost to the Ravens, correct?
Yeah, so that was my
Okay.
first year of watching football, and actually, since that Monday night game, I've never missed a game live, no matter what time it is, and it drives my family crazy. The NFC Championship game at the weekend, it finished at 3:30 in the morning. Like you said, that emotional roller coaster. There was no way I could go to sleep after that. So I was in the chats, I was
No,
on Twitter,
I couldn't sleep either.
and I had to go to work at like 8 in the morning, and I just stayed up. And then when we recorded our pod on Monday night and we tried to digest that game, like you said, the knock on Kyle Shanahan was he couldn't come back. But I would like an easier Super Bowl, please, Kyle. You've proved to everybody you can do it. Like Aaron said, let's just go into the lead early and we can all relax.
I just want to say hello to everybody that's in the chat. Lee Gowan, 49ers, Simon, Colin Bay, Baz, my guy Omar, Red Jet is in here. Of course, Lee Gowan is in here. Thank you everyone for coming through. I don't usually do streams at 3 in the afternoon, but hey, man, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I am still trying to digest what happened Sunday. If you put a gun to my head and asked me, did I think they were going to come back? I didn't think so. I didn't. And people are like, oh, you're not a real fan. No, I'm a real fan because I'm being honest with you. My honest feeling was they weren't showing me anything to make me think that there was any fight. It was just up and down the field with Detroit, up and down the field, score, score, score. And it was just like, and then the offense, of course, they're feeling the pressure, right? Because they have to score. So they looked out of sorts. So I was on the telephone with a lady friend of mine, or my lady, and she was telling me they're going to come back. And I'm like, I don't know, not really feeling it. And as I was talking to her for the time that we were on the phone, they got the score that got them within 7, and then they scored the touchdown that tied the game. And so I was like, oh my God, I got a good luck charm, even though I don't believe in any of that stuff. And then, of course, I watched the other half of the game with my brother, the rest of the game with my brother, and they won. And it was just like my brother high-fived me after the game. I told my brother, I said, I am pooped. I am tired. That game, I was numb after the game. Like I was so physically numb because I went from being so depressed and so like, what a wasted season. This guy needs to be fired. They got to get rid of Kasarik, blah, 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 blah. And then they came back. So I don't know. Was your experience like, first of all, since you're in the house and your family's sleeping, are you watching in silence? Are you watching it on mute? How are we doing this?
No, I do. Well, I have volume on the TV, but it was a bit strange for me because Lee Gowland was hosting. So we had an official watch party on Sunday night, which was in Leeds, for people watching the 49ers own Leeds United Football Club. So whenever they need something short notice, they put an event on there. Due to financial, family reasons, it was just a stretch too much for me. It was the first one in 6 years that I've missed. So Sunday, I kind of had this sulk going on all day, Aaron. I was moping about the house. I could see all my friends travelling to Leeds. I could see all the footage on social media. So I sat down to watch the game and I was feeling a little bit kind of glum. And then the Lions scored straight away. And it reminded me of the Dolphins game when Purdy made his first entrance as the Niners quarterback. And I remember that feeling back then, the same thinking, they've scored too quickly, the Lions. Now, last week on our show, for the first time, we had a rival fan. So I have a friend who's a Lions fan, and
Okay.
he's been a long-suffering Lions fan for 30 years. So as you can imagine, he was hyped for this game. And I was texting him. So the first half, he was on a height. And I remember texting him at halftime, Aaron, because it was really late. I couldn't phone anyone because the missus and the kids were in bed. And he said to me, he was worried that that first half had gone too well. And he was worried that Dan Campbell was going to be too aggressive. And he said something to me, which I think Niners fans need to kind of look into because there was a lot of talk at halftime about Shanahan, Wilkes. And Andy, the Lions fan, texted me and he said, Kyle Shanahan is calmness personified. Now that's resonated with me because after the game, Purdy, Ayuk, both have all come out and said Kyle was very calm at halftime and he was of the opinion, we've played that bad. We're only 17 points down. Now, I will admit I'm very optimistic. I thought we were going to come back. I just had a feeling. I texted my mate at halftime and I said, we're going to get a turnover. We're going to get a pick six. It's going to be 24-24 heading into the fourth quarter. So I've got the timestamp texts. Lee was down in Leeds, Aaron, as you can imagine. Every time we've had a watch party at Leeds, the Niners have lost. So you said there you don't believe in curses and stuff and all the rest of it. We don't either. But as you can imagine, we were thinking, if we lose another one of these games when there's a watch party, people are going to go mad. And Lee said he went to get a drink at the bar and something just clicked in his head. And he thought, second half, we need to come out. Now, I don't know about you, but after the game, I always go back the next day and I always watch the game back, regardless of the result, win or lose. Because I'm fairly new to this content creating, I like to go back and see what I can see. I'm not an expert, I'm just a fan. And when you watch that game back, we didn't play as bad as I first thought. I mean, the first 12 play opening drive, if Jake Moody scores that field goal, it isn't as bad as it seems. But yeah, I did watch you and Ted last night, and I was chuckling in the kitchen this afternoon when I was making the dinner. And I said to the girls, "This is who I'm doing the show with tonight." And you and Ted were like, "No, I didn't think we were coming back." And the girls were like, "Are you going to tell Aaron that you thought you were going to come back?" I was like, "Yep," because I always have that confidence, Aaron. So that's just the way I am, buddy.
I'm a New Yorker, so we're always kind of a negative and loud and opinionated people. And I'm not even in New York City. I'm Western New York. I'm way up at the top. Um, I just I've seen so much football in my lifetime that I don't know, they just seem kind of listless, like they didn't have any. I don't know. You would think coming into that game that there'd be some fire and there'd be some, anger and people would be hitting and there'd be a lot of, you know, difficulty for the Lions to move the ball, and it was anything but that. Lee says this perfectly. Completely agree. At halftime, I thought the game was over. I did too. I wasn't going to lie. We aren't built to come back from that big of a deficit. However, I quickly changed my mind before the second half started. I didn't stop believing. Here's the thing. The reason I was completely like, no, we're not going to do it is I said to my brother, I said, the Niners are just like the Dolphins. They have they're kind of what they call a front runner, which means that their offense is built to be ahead because everything is screens and motion and window dressing, and it's all a bunch of smoke and mirrors to get the defense confused, right? Well, when you're behind, none of that works because the defense isn't buying it. So you have to play normal football, drop back and throw every play. And the Niners, just the way that they're built, the way that their offense is, they're not built to come back. To me, they're like the Golden State Warriors. When they're up, they'll kill you. When they're behind, it's hit or miss. So that's kind of where I was at. And I always say that momentum is real in sports. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't do anything. It's just there and you can feel it as you're watching a game like, whoa. When they got that fumble recovery, I thought to myself, we're going to win this game. It just felt you could tell that the Lions had like almost given everything that they had and it wasn't going to be enough. And I thought the Niners experience took over at that point. And after that happened, I was like, okay, we just got to hold on to this. No fumbles. The three handoffs before they down the ball or they need on the ball. I was like, why are we running the ball? You know what I mean? Like I was so upset, but and everybody's hugging on the sideline. I'm like, what if he fumbles? I was like so stressed out, but Mitchell didn't fumble, so it was great. That was the most stressful since 2019. Like that Super Bowl where we lost it at the end. That was that one kicked me in the stomach. This one was kind of the reverse of that. I just hope going into the Super Bowl that we don't have to be that stressed out
I
again
think
in a
for
game.
I think for us, you go back to that 2019 season, and I'm not coming on the show to knock Jimmy, but there's the
Right.
obvious comparisons between Brock and Jimmy. And like you said, when the Niners fell behind with Jimmy under center, mistake-free football didn't happen. He threw an interception. Teams weren't scared of the deep ball. And you're right, at half time, as much as I was optimistic, and Simon's put in the chat there, Paul in his red and gold glasses, because that's what I'm known for. I try to be optimistic. I try not to look on the negative when it comes to the American football. But everything that could have gone wrong for the Niners in that first half did. The defense was listless. Like you said, we were expecting Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw to help with the run game. The fact
Nothing.
that they were converting 3rd and 18 by running the ball. That third touchdown where Chase Young just kind of let him run three, and you think 24/7 at half time. Now, I know Kyle isn't a big rah-rah man. I knew he wasn't going to go in the dressing room and he was going to be flipping tables and chairs, like what Dan Campbell probably would have done. I was confident that Steve Wilkes would make the adjustments at half time because sometimes with our Niners, I find that Kyle lets the team kind of show him what they're about. And he plays this game of chess, which when you explain to people in the UK, 4 quarters of 15 minutes and the game can last 4-5 hours. They never understand. My good lady sometimes will say, "Oh, there's only 2 minutes left on the clock, Paul." I'm like, "Yeah, but both teams have got 3 times out. It's a close game. I'll see you in about an hour." And like you said, the momentum shift, George Kittle talked about it. I think he was interviewed in the run up to the game last week, and some reporter had said that momentum wasn't real. And George was like, "What are you talking about? Everything in football is to do with momentum. A ball bounces wrong one way." And I was fine until someone in our group chat, when they were going to do the onside kick recovery, and
Ooh,
someone dropped in our group chat that the last time this happened against the Lions, Kittle fumbled and the Lions won. And like you said, for the last 5 minutes, we'd all been congratulating each other, thinking the game's won now. And then, like you said, even on the kneel down, why did Purdy take 2 steps back at the end? It was as if they just wanted to wring that last bit of stress on the emotional roller coaster. But
yep.
Super Bowl, baby. We've been waiting a
Super
long time
Bowl.
for this. So
Uh, my brother's like, you got to enjoy it, Aaron. He's like, win or not in the Super Bowl, the fact that your team made it again. He's like, some teams never make it. And I told him, I was like, I know, and I know the players probably think the same thing, but man, it would really be nice to win. Just so I could be like, it happened like again in my lifetime. And it happened for some of the young fans, or even someone like yourself who, has been a Niner fans probably what, 20, 12 years now, about
yeah,
12 years. You've never seen a championship. So I'm not trying to think too much about the game right now because it's still a week and a half away or a week and a couple days away. But as they get closer, man, and we'll get into it, but like, I feel like there's a shot. I feel like where the defense lacks, the offense makes up for it. So we'll see though. Um, I want to ask you about Brock Purdy because I don't know if it's as much on sports television in the UK. I would assume it isn't. The criticism and the shots that they take at him and just he's this, he's that, he's not a real, he's not an elite quarterback. There's always a negative conversation when it comes to Brock Purdy. For Paul Hope, has Brock Purdy done enough to stake his claim as the long-term answer for the 49ers?
well, I will say that he has managed to win me over. um, all jokes aside, Lee Gowland was in Vegas when we drafted Brock Purdy, and I don't know if you know this, but I play flag football, and I have
I
a
did not know
friend
that.
who is He's an elite quarterback. He plays for Team GB. And he was actually at college the same time as Brock Purdy was. He's a Patriots fan. And he texted me and he said, this kid is going to be special under Kyle Shanahan. You guys have drafted a great quarterback. And when we did our season preview show last year, we're known for being bold on the 49er Faithful UK. Lee actually said that Brock was going to throw the Super Bowl winning pass. And this was at the start of last year. So we all chuckled because for that Miami game where Brock came in, Lee was in attendance. So Lee's somewhat been there when Jimmy made his first start. He was there when Brock Purdy was. Now, when I was preparing for tonight's show and you sent me that, I was thinking, which road do we go down? I've seen all the hate. I've seen all the noise. Non-Niners fans on this side of the pond, Aaron, love nothing more than blowing up my Twitter mentioned with how rubbish Brock Purdy is. Because when you get into the NFL in the UK, if you're a casual fan and you just watch Red Zone and you do a little bit on social media, you're attracted to the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens. You see the highlights. I mean, some of my friends only watch football on Red Zone. They've never watched a game. So if you're only watching the highlights of a player, of course, you're only going to see the good bits. Now, when he came in against Miami, I was a little bit nervous because he did what most college kids do when they first start in the NFL. He was running around, he was escaping the pocket, and he was running into the Dolphins defensive ends. And I was like, I even said at the time, he needs to have more poise in the pocket. And then what shocked me is the week later against the Buccaneers, he put it all out there. He stayed in the pocket, he used his legs, he was elusive. And I thought, okay, just hold your horses, because I'd gone all in on Jimmy. Jerseys are expensive to get in the UK. So I didn't want to get another quarterback jersey, after Kaepernick, after Garoppolo. We love him on this side of the pond. We have coined the Brocket ship, and we're selling tickets to the Brocket ship. I know Ted, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, so I know Ted was very harsh at the start of the season on Brock.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave Ted some gentle bit of ribbon, shall one say. And then when Ted has gone all in on Brock, it was funny watching the Buccaneers game live at the Goldmine, and Ted was stood next to me. So whenever someone gives Ted hate, now I can say, actually, he told me to my face that he's a believer in Brock. What more do you need to see from this kid, Aaron? Whatever metric you use in the NFL, he smashed it. Oh, this kid can't throw deep. Go back against the Buccaneers game and watch that 76-yard bomb to Brandon Ayuk. Go to the Seahawks game, see that bomb to Deebo Samuel. He can't bring the team back from a deficit. Oh, it was only 4 points against the Green Bay Packers. That third quarter last week smashed any remaining doubt in my eyes for any of the Brock Purdy haters. Now, I'm not going to say he's elite like Lamar Jackson traits.
I won't say that. I agree. I don't think he is yet either. But he doesn't suck. He's not crap. Or as you say, he's not rubbish. People are so fixated on size, arm strength, athletic ability. There's a lot of quarterbacks, like the guy in Chicago, who has all that stuff, and he's not good. Because up here, where the game is played, you have to be quick. You have to have a quick response. You have to make decisions quickly. You have to be able to read a defense, make audibles, look off defenders. There's so much to the quarterback position than just athletic ability. And what Brock lacks in everything else, he makes for up with his mental part of the game. Like Ted always says, he's a mental giant. And a lot of people, including myself, thought that was a knock early on. Like, oh, what does he mean? Like, oh, he's so smart, but yet but he's right. He is a mental giant. And that comeback to me is like notches in a belt, or, anytime like somebody in the military does something heroic, they get another, Purple Heart or this, that, or that's what I think of him. It keeps adding to his, his whatever. It's little by little, it's given him more experience for more difficult situations. Do I want us to fall behind in the Super Bowl by 20 points? No. Do I think that is sustainable? No. But do I like look at that game last week as like kind of a career defining moment? Absolutely. And
I
just
mean, just go and watch the second half. If you're a Brock Purdy hater, I've just pulled the stats up there. He threw for 150 plus yards. He rushed for 45 plus yards. He completed 80% of his passes. He averaged 10 yards per rush, had 0 turnovers, and he put the team on his back. No other quarterback in the last 30 years has done that in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes does that. Good Morning Football, running it on loop week after week after week. And like you said, yes, he doesn't have the resume. He didn't have the height. He didn't have the arm strength, but he's only 24 years of age. He has got the most passing yards in franchise history. He has put the team on his back. The bit where after the game, Nick Bosa's hugging him and saying, I was a number 2 pick in the draft and I suffer from social anxiety.
yeah.
How do you cope being picked 262 in the draft? And Brock Purdy's like, I could have played better. I like that humble attitude in Brock Purdy. I like the fact that he's took his chance. He's come back. So we don't get a lot of coverage in the UK, as you can imagine, on the NFL.
Okay.
But I'll surprise your viewers. I don't do English football. I don't watch the Premier League. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm plugged in. So I'm seeing all the hate on Brock Purdy. I watch shows like yours. I'm tuned into The Athletic. Bit of a fanboy moment when I was at Levi Stadium. David Lombardi walked past me, and I'm thinking, there's David Lombardi. I read his articles, and I'm like, David. And he's like, who's this crazy Englishman saying hello to me? But the internet has allowed the world to become smaller, and it's allowed us to be plugged in. And like you said, we have, I think you call it NFL Sunday ticket. We call it Game Pass in the UK. So I'll pay like $150, which means I can watch every Niners game. You can go back and watch old footage. You can watch NFL Network. So I do see the stuff, but when I was out in the States, it was amazing to just put the TV on and just have wall-to-wall coverage. But yeah, Brock Purdy, I'm all aboard the Brocket ship, Aaron, and my good friend Ted can guarantee that I've been high on Brock Purdy since day one.
Red Jet says she's Paul Hope fanboying. Me fangirling Paul. Cool. I think she's a fangirl of me too. I'm not positive. I hope she is. No, just kidding. Sentinel, and he says, and I'll try to keep it PG. It's not a BS act either. He's just a humble dude. He is a silent assassin, though. Don't get me wrong, but the attitude is legit. Tom Brady's a fan of his. Tom Brady played his whole career with a major chip on his shoulder because of where he was drafted. And I hope Brock always keeps that same chip. His dad, they interviewed him after the game and they try to talk to him about all the negative stuff. And he's like, I don't watch anything negative, only positive. And I'm thinking, that's awesome. You know, why feed into it by watching it and getting yourself pissed off? You know, just don't watch it. I don't watch ESPN anymore. I haven't watched ESPN in years because it's turned into just, there's political stuff in it. There's certain things they talk about and they force certain agendas. And I'm like, you know what? I'll watch NFL Network sometimes, but for the most part, now that I do this YouTube thing, I listen to the people that I watch and myself, and that's pretty much it. I don't need to go watch sports television anymore because I do my own sort of version of that on my own with the people that I collab with or the fans that we interact with on the internet. Pretty cool. I mean, you would have told me 4 years ago that people actually, even if it's not a ton, I'm not like the big channels, but like people legitimately will pop in and talk football with you every single show you have. It's pretty cool. You don't need all those other places because all they do, they're trying to spin a narrative and they're not really 49er fans. So they're just trying to do things for clicks and for views and for engagement. So
I have a friend who is a Bills fan. Well,
oh boy,
1 week he's an Eagles fan, 1 week he's a Bills fan. And he really gave me a hard time because after Jimmy, like all Niners fans, Darren, I went all in on Trey Lance. I support the team.
so did I.
I trusted Kyle Shanahan, and he really went to town on the fact that Trey was a bust, and he will not let it lie about Brock Purdy. And like I keep saying to him, you're entitled to your opinion, but you don't watch as much content as I do. You're just watching the highlights. I'm like, Brock Purdy is the best quarterback that we've had under Kyle Shanahan. The knock is he's got all the weapons around him. I don't care. You want your team to have the best players.
Right.
And Brock Purdy, like you said, he's making those quick decisions. Even when he does turn the ball over, I don't know about you, it doesn't feel like it did under Jimmy. We'd all have those moments where Jimmy couldn't see the linebacker in the coverage and he'd just throw that ball and we'd all groan and we'd all go on Twitter afterwards. And I think as a fan base, we gave Jimmy a lot of room to come back. We all wanted Jimmy to be what Brock is now. But when Brock makes a turnover, the team don't seem to lose confidence in him. And I loved the embrace of Kyle Shanahan and Brock at the end of that game on Sunday. That said everything that you needed to know about this team. And when you've got Hall of Famers like Trent Williams, you've got George Kittle, you've got Deebo Samuel pulling for him. And we'll get on to my love for Kyle Shanahan, but the culture we've created, like you said, they don't let the outside noise in. And why should they? They're the best team in football. We're not going to play mistake-free football every week. If you win the turnover battle in this league, you win games. But like you said, I think I took my Apple Watch off at halftime because the heart rate monitor on Sunday was cross. That I was going through the emotion. And in a way, I'm glad that we went through that game. Now we're playing the Chiefs because in 2019, we went into that Super Bowl. We'd coasted through the playoffs. We then coasted those first three quarters. And this team wasn't battle tested to cope when they started coming back. Mahomes did the third and wasp play. Then all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill's doing this. And then before you know it, we've got no response. Where I don't want a repeat of that, Aaron, but I do think that the last 2 weeks have proven that this team is ready. And that's what's given me confidence ahead of the Chiefs game.
Yeah, people talk and they use the word battle tested, but it's true in sports. Because you can fall back on experience of going through something. I think in life, if you're battle tested, you deal with situations better. Whatever, sickness, death, loss of job, whatever. If you've been through enough trauma in life, you tend to be able to build almost like a callus. You know what I mean, like a scar tissue, and you're able to kind of draw on bad experiences that you've been through. And I think that's also in sports. If all you do is succeed and never fail, then when you fail, you're going to be crushed. You know what I mean? Like you'll never be able to get out of that funk. So in a way, that's why I think Bashar and me were talking about this, 49er minded, that losing before the playoff run was beneficial, and that's coasting into the playoffs where everything goes really well, and then all of a sudden you get in there, you face a hot team, and you're done. That Packers game was a pain in the butt. And it was really stressful. I was actually more angry watching that game than I was this one. This one, I was more depressed. I was pissed off watching that Packers game. This one, I was just like, man, is this how it's going to end? That's it? But Brock, he brocked up. He sacked up. He took the team on his back. The defense made some key stops when they needed to. And here we are once again in the Super Bowl. Third time since 2012, I think. Can we do it? Can we do it? One of the questions I'll ask you in relation to that is CMC our offensive key to victory? We didn't have CMC last time. This is a whole different time. The defense might be struggling and we're worried about the Kansas City's offense. But this is completely, first of all, it's a different quarterback, as we both have talked about. But we have Christian freaking McCaffrey on this team, on top of Deebo, Ayuk, and Kittle. I think he's the key to victory. I think the Niners need to highlight him in that game, and they need to feed him the ball a ton in this game. I'm talking almost 30 touches between run and pass. What about you?
Yeah, if you've watched what I do, as in the people in the chat, I'm on record. I love 23. When we traded for him last year, I thought it was crazy that ESPN graded that a C- because I knew he was good at the Panthers. I knew he was good in fantasy football. What's quite funny, the knock was, would Kyle Shanahan not use him enough, or would he overuse him? And I've seen a lot of talk this year that we've overused him. But what McCaffrey has done for this offense cannot be understated. He isn't just a bell cow running back. You can use him in the slot. I really like Brian Balginger's breakdowns. And over the last few weeks, he's shown some breakdowns of where you talk about the motions, the orbits, the magic that Kyle Shanahan does. And if you watch CMC, when he's not getting the ball, he still puts as much effort into being a decoy as he does when he's getting the ball. And Brock Purdy doesn't have some bad check down options, does he? And that's the knock on Brock Purdy. Or things are going bad, he can throw it to the best tight end in the league. Or if it's going bad, he can dump it off to CMC. But when you sent me through that question, 431 carries, 2,205 yards, 31 touchdowns in 27 games since we've traded for CMC. I put my money where my mouth was. Didn't buy the Purdy jersey at the start of the season. I bought a 23. I rocked that at Levi's. And every time I'm sat at home watching the game, if the kids are still awake, all I'll hear every Sunday is, I love that man. I love 23. Run CMC. And the girls are like, you're crazy. But it cannot be said what he's brought to this offense and his work ethic. Now, I don't know if you know this, but when we traded for CMC, when he landed, I think he landed late on the Friday night, he wasn't allowed a playbook until he passed the medical. So we were due to play the Chiefs that weekend at Levi's on the Sunday. So on the Saturday, the 49ers needed someone to run through some plays with CMC. So who got the job? Then none other than your third string quarterback, Brock Purdy. And apparently that's where their relationship started, Aaron. Like on the practice field, CMC was impressed by this kid's drive. He knew all the plays. He knew all the play calling. He was telling CMC, no, you need to line up there. You need to line up here. Now, it's well documented that CMC came into that Chiefs game with a shortened down playbook.
Mhm.
It was still awesome. But when you think back, that chemistry was already evident with Brock Purdy on day one. That blew my mind when I found out about that. And apparently, after practice, they would stop back and they would put this in. So when Brock came into the game against Miami, he already had the confidence of CMC, of the team around him. So, no, I totally agree with you. I'd like to see Kyle run the ball. Please run the ball behind Trent Williams. Just go up the left. It works every time. Put George Kittle there. Let's just pound the ball.
Yeah, let's run away from Chris Jones, because Chris Jones is a beast, and go right up that left side with Aaron Banks and Trent Williams those are some large men. That is some human beings that are just huge. So hide behind them and go do your business. I still can't believe, and it's been over a calendar year since we got Christian McCaffrey. I'm like, man, we got Christian McCaffrey. I do that to myself, and I don't get quarterback jerseys. I don't buy them because every time I have in the past, I had a Garcia. He moved on. Kaepernick disappointed me. I never had an Alex Smith jersey. I didn't buy a Garoppolo jersey. I might be receiving, possibly from an anonymous person, I won't say their name yet, a Brock Purdy jersey that hopefully fits my big behind. And I might just wear it if I get it before the Super Bowl. I might wear it during the Super Bowl. I'm not superstitious, but I still don't do certain things because I think they're going to affect what's going to happen, even though I don't believe in it. So I have a
Well, to back you up there, you'll see hung up. So I won a Brandon Ayuk white road jersey
nice.
last year at the watch party. Now, I don't normally like to wear white on a game day for obvious reasons, especially if we're going to be out partying. We've got a watch party. But my superstition is I have to wear the colour the team's wearing. So if we're playing the road red, I wear the road red. Now, CMC has served me well. Ted has probably told you this story. CMC will hold a special place in my heart because that was the first live touchdown that I ever saw at Levi's against the Buccaneers. And I was stood with Ted, and Ted was blown away that at 44 years of age, that was my first live football in the NFL. But I think I will be getting a Purdy jersey next, but I'm going to be rocking number 11 for the Super Bowl. So I can't wait for that.
I have a million shirts. I can't wear jerseys during games. I get too warm. I'm a warm person by nature. I get hot. So I'm going to be stressed watching the game and moving and wringing my hands and stuff. And if I'm wearing a jersey, I'm going to take it off at some point. So what I'll do is if they win and I get that jersey, I'm going to wear it every single day of the week following the victory.
Well, I rock Niners gear like you. I've got t-shirts, I've got hoodies.
Always.
The guy across the road from me, he's a Rams fan, and fair play to him. The year they won the Super Bowl, he had the cap he had the hoodie. And I've said to my good lady, we win that Super Bowl, I'm ordering the winning hat. I'm ordering the t-shirt.
Oh,
I'm
me
ordering the
too.
hoodie. And I'll be
Absolutely.
rocking that every single
I will
day
be
in the
on my
off-season.
phone as soon as it ends. Go to 49ers.com and be one of the first, because they're going to run out. People are going to be like, we haven't had a shirt and hat. We haven't had a shirt and, we call when we win the division a shirt and hat game. This is the shirt and hat game. And I want it so bad. Like you said, you don't want to hype yourself up and then they lose and try to really overanalyze anything. But let's be honest, we're both kind of like in the back of your mind, or maybe in the front of your mind, you're thinking, man, I hope we win.
Well, you and Ted were talking about it last night. What's strange about this one is when we headed into the last one, our defense was our strength, their
Yeah.
offense was their strength. And the roles have reversed. I said at the start of the playoff run, when everyone was high on the Lamar train, I said Mahomes is the one that scares me because he's got that
Always.
playoff pedigree. And we talk about battle tested. The Chiefs haven't had an easy run in the playoffs. They've gone in as a number 3 seed. They went into Buffalo, knocked Buffalo out. They had a bit of a slugfest with the Ravens. It hasn't been talked enough for me that the Chiefs didn't put any points up in the second half, but they won ugly and they went into Baltimore. But it is strange. And I know one of the questions you've got for me is about our defense. I won't steal your running order, but you can't help but not get excited. 4 out of the 5 last NFC Championship games, this team has been built to win. We all had that disappointment last year. We were at a watch party in the UK, and when Brock Purdy got injured, the CMC touchdown against Philadelphia, we celebrated it like we'd won the Super Bowl because we kind of knew we weren't going to get to celebrate for the rest of that game. And I think that you said that's what made Sunday even more stressful because it was the Lions, for crying out loud. This is what we'd cried out for. We'd built all year, and we didn't want to just get to the NFC Championship game. We wanted to go to the big one.
Yeah. That was what the frustrating part of it was. It was like you worked so hard. You got everything you wanted. You got home field advantage. You're pretty healthy. You went into the midseason and you went and got Chase Young and Randy Gregory. Everybody's ready to go. Brock Purdy's healthy for this game, and then that's how you come out. I said that they were heartless in the beginning of the game. I said it, and it was proven right by when you go watch some of the defensive film. People are jogging. Let's talk about that defense. What? I get frustrated. I start to stumble on my words. What is going on recently with the defense, and can we fix it before the Super Bowl?
I think Steve Wilkes is a very old school coach. When he was brought in to basically work with the cornerbacks and work with the safeties. I'm happy that he moved to the sideline. I see Fred Warner as the quarterback of the defense, and I think Fred feeds off that energy of his coordinator on the sideline. I think Shanahan has created a culture on the defense that they're allowed to speak their mind. I think the culture that they've made, you saw that at Levi's when you had former players who were on NFL team rosters rocking Niners gear in the line back and doing the dance. And Fred Warner's one of my favourites. He imposed his will in the second half, but it's been difficult as Niners fans because we're used to that front seven getting after the quarterback. We had Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year last year, 18, 19 sacks. You say you add Chase Young, and you think, oh, Young on one side, Bosa on the other. I was high on the Chase Young pickup because of what we got him for the value. But the knock on him coming out of Washington was the effort wasn't always there. And I remember seeing some articles that we'd have to choose between Ayuk and Young. This is when we first traded for him. And I was like, nah, we're not choosing Chase Young over Brandon Ayuk. I was annoyed at the effort Chase Young put in there because if he's playing for a contract, Aaron, with us or someone else, you put it on game tape, and that effort was shocking. I think what was difficult is I wanted Brown to play last week. I wanted J.A. Brown to be back at the safety, but it wasn't his best game. He was exposed in the pass coverage. He took some weird angles. When you go back and watch the game tape back and you said, missed tackles has plagued this defense. But similar to what I said about Kyle Shanahan, Wilkes isn't your D'Amico. He's not your Robert Saleh. He's not your rah-rah guy. And I don't think that the defense needs that. The mesh Soft zone coverage really angers me. I'm glad they switched it to more man in the second half.
Yep.
What worries me with going at this game against the Lions, we could probably put 8 in the box and stop the run. Because let's face it, we weren't worried about Jared Goff. Can't do that against the Chiefs. You put 8 in the box, Patrick Mahomes is just going to pick you apart. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. We miss Hufanga. I think the way this defense plays is you like to bring that extra bit of kind of heat-seeking missile from the backfield. And as much as Hufanga can sometimes miss and make mistakes, sometimes when he's used as an extra blitz or, they just let him go and attack the ball. I'm confident because we've got Fred Warner and we've got Dre Greenlaw. And I think, yes, Kelce is one of the better tight ends in the league, Aaron, but what do you need against a good tight end? He's a good linebacker. And we've got the best in the NFL. Nick Bosa didn't have a bad day last week when I watched the game tape back. I think you and Ted talked about it last night. I'm not too worried if we don't get sacks, as long as we're hitting the quarterback, as long as the pressure's there, and as long as you kind of get in the face. And we saw that
in the dirt. Knock him in the dirt. That's all we want. Just hit him into the ground every play.
We saw that against the Eagles. The blueprint, as Nick Bosa called it. We went into Philadelphia and we contained Jalen Hurts because we knew he couldn't beat us with his arm. Got a lot of respect for Patrick Mahomes. He is the poster boy of the NFL. He isn't having statistically a great season, but like you've said before, he's entering that kind of, what's this, fourth Super Bowl in 5 years. He's going for his third ring. That connection he's got with Kelce scares me a little bit. But if you take away Kelce, he's got Pacheco, who's a decent running back, but he's no CMC. He's got Rice, who's probably the receiver he goes to. So I have confidence in this defense because the Ravens defense held them to 0 points in the second half. It was just Lamar Jackson decided to have his worst game. And isn't it strange, Aaron, when Brock Purdy had a bad game against Lamar Jackson, everybody was crying from the rooftops on the national media. But when Lamar Jackson has a game like he did last week, it goes a bit quiet. But I think Wilkes does need to put those adjustments in place at the start of the game. What do you make of the decision to bring him from the booth to the sideline? Do you think that's just kind of...
I thought it worked in the beginning. You put that and you coincide that with Chase Young. I mean, those first 3 games back, we had 15 sacks in 3 games, and we were like, oh wow, I guess it's working. But then like you said, you watch some of the plays against the Lions, and he's not even running full speed. Defense as a whole is waiting for someone to make a tackle instead of people team tackling. There's a lot of people like, oh, well, we've done it before. It's like, that is not going to get you a championship ring if you play with the mindset of, well, someone's going to make the play. No, you have to be the guy. You have to be with the mindset that it's your job to make that play.
Do you not think Wilkes has set them up that way, though? Because under Ryans, they used to have that swarm mentality. As soon as the ball was out, they all swarmed after it, like you said. It didn't matter who made the tackle.
I don't see it this year.
There. And you look at Gibson, you look at Ryan, both veterans. Gibson's been brilliant since we got him. Ryan was on a cruise ship. But they're more old school safeties for me, Aaron. They're not the young kids in the NFL like J.A. Brown, like Hufanga. They sit a bit deep. And I think they're following the instructions at Wilkes. Wilkes wants them to play like that. Kind of the bend and break mentality that we had under Salah and Ryan, to let them get the big chunk yards, but then slam the door shut in the red zone. But sometimes it's a worry, isn't it? Like you said, like when the Lions do to us what they did. So the Lions mixed in Jared Goff's best features, play action, getting the ball out, and then explosive running plays. And Pacheco has that in his locker. Pacheco could do that damage to us, like what the Lions did last week. And Mahomes is a far better quarterback than Jared Goff.
They've got to find a way. To me, that defensive line is the difference in this game. The Niners' defensive line can disrupt Mahomes in any way to throw him off his game, to cause a turnover or 2, and we can score like we've been scoring, then yeah, we have a fantastic chance to win this game, but it's going to be close throughout. I think this game is going to be a 1-possession game going into the fourth quarter. I don't see us running away with anything. If anything, I just hope it's not like last week and we're not running into a situation where we have to play, hero ball and come back. Because I think versus a team like Kansas City with Andy Reid and Kelsey and Mahomes, you're not coming back. So, Ringen said that the Chiefs' defense is really good. Niners need to be very careful. Yeah, they do. One of the best defenses they've had in years, and they don't even have really a premier pass rusher either. They lost Amenahu, who was a former 49er. He's gone, so they don't really have what you would say is like a dominant pass rush. But they have Chris Jones, and he wrecked our Super Bowl. He wrecked our Super Bowl a couple years ago by being in Jimmy Garoppolo's lap the whole game. So a lot of time before the game starts, there was an interview at the end of the game that they had Steve Wilkes on there, and he's like, I'm going to get this defense to play better, and by the time the game starts, and I'm thinking to myself, just do it, like stop talking about it, like just make it happen because we need the defense to play way better if we're going to have a chance against the Chiefs. You come out with the effort they did against the Lions, and they were going to get boat raced in that game.
I'd like to think that, like you said, being the fan, it's the Super Bowl, it's the biggest game of the year. So, like you said, any question of effort should be worry. Even the likes of Chase Young should be up for this one, for want of a better word. But yeah, the Chiefs' defense. The thing that gives me confidence is Brock Purdy is at his best when he's under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
We saw week 3, the Giants sent everybody after him. Bring it on. The best quarterback to face the blitz in the NFL is Brock Purdy. I just hope Brock, I don't think the occasion will get to him, but I just want him to do what he's done to get to this point. Read what the defense has given you. Mistake-free football, like you said, win the turnover battle. That's key, no matter what level of football you're playing. And if we get out into a lead, it'll be interesting to see because when you look at the stats against the Ravens, for as good as they're all going about Mahomes, 240 passing yards on 30 completions, and he literally went to those 4 players that we've talked about. Now, I was surprised that the Ravens offense didn't do more because what more could you ask for your defense in the second half to shut it down? Now, I say our defense is built similar to the Ravens. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but we have similar strengths with the linebacking core. You'd argue that their backfield is better than ours. But I'm just hoping that someone like Lenore or Hargrave has a big game because I agree with you and Ted. I watched last night and I think Hargrave hasn't been quite to the level I expected for the money invested. We all remember the wrecking balls that were Armstead and Buckner on the last Super Bowl run. Hargrave and Kinlaw haven't quite done it. Obviously, I'm glad we've got Armstead back in there. And I just worry either buying too much into Wilkes kind of standing back off. Like you said, our strength, for as much as Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius, him and John Lynch have invested a lot of resources into that defensive front, into that front 7. That's what our strength is. You go back to our first draft, we could have picked up Mahomes. They picked up Solomon Thomas because Kyle Shanahan wanted a kick-ass defense from day one. And obviously, you look back in hindsight and you think, why didn't we draft Patrick Mahomes? But Kyle Shanahan's been very clear, and you're right. I think we don't win that one last week. Steve Wilkes gets fired because what more could they give a coordinator? You've got all the pieces around you, but I'm confident that they've got the 2 weeks between now and it's a week on Sunday. They're going to be watching the game tape. They're going to be plugged in. And it's a different feel. I don't know about you, but last time in 2019, I kind of felt like we were grateful to be there, but the Chiefs were always the favourites. Where I think the run we've been on over the last 5 years, I'm going into this one, my chest pumped up. We're the best team in the NFL.
I'm a little more confident in this one than I was in the first one against Kansas City, mainly because of the power, the superpower, the offensive firepower that we have with the guys that we have. I just think Purdy is the difference. I think Purdy, they got to calm him down early, give him early completions, easy completions. I would run the ball pretty aggressively and then do some play action off of it. Because if they're slicing Kansas City up with McCaffrey, it's going to make everybody's job a whole hell of a lot easier, including Brock's. Because I don't care who you are, everybody's a little uptight when they first start a Super Bowl. It's just natural human emotion. You could be Joe Montana. I'm sure. I mean, his first Super Bowl to his last one, he didn't have the greatest statistical game in his first Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. He played efficient. Now, down the road, he was the difference maker along with Rice and other players. So with Purdy, me, it's just do enough, stay out of the way, don't make any, don't throw any interceptions, especially against a team like Kansas City, who can score from anywhere with Mahomes. Just be careful with the ball, and if they can on defense, just hit them, take them to the
But,
ground. Hopefully,
but
the referees let us play like they have the last
yeah.
2 weeks. That's been the best part, is the refs has been letting the 49ers play, and
Do you
that
not
to me is important.
do you not think on the flip side though, Jimmy was limited and Kyle hid Jimmy where
Oh
Brock
yeah,
is a playmaker and he's not a mobile quarterback, but Kyle's always wanted a quarterback similar to Josh Allen in my eyes, someone who can extend the play with his legs. And Brock Purdy showed me that last week. He put the team on his back. Those rushing yards were so important last week because the
it
Lions
was
defense had
awesome.
everyone covered, and he didn't put the ball in harm's way, and he
Nope.
took off, and it you said momentum. Debo Samuel has said that one where he was out in front blocking, and Brock Purdy ran into the back of him. Debo was like, "Oh, I've injured my quarterback," and he's like, "Oh, if I'd only blocked him." Imagine if Brock runs that one in for a touchdown, then it just seemed to kind of galvanize the team. So I do think heading into the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs won't be sleeping on Brock Purdy. I
Mm-mm.
know there's a lot of non-Niners fans say he's a system quarterback, he's dink and dunk. And I know we talk about the talking heads not giving Brock the praise, but he was still in the 5 nominees for the most valuable player in the National Football League. He is definitely Mr. Relevant, and I can't wait for him to prove his doubt was wrong. What better way than to win the Super Bowl and be Super Bowl MVP? Like you said
That
at the
would
start,
be
that's the
that would be the
dream.
ultimate. That would be the ultimate. Speaking of the defense, do you think we retain Wilkes this year, regardless of the outcome?
Personally, the only way I could see Wilkes going is if he got a head coach job. And when I look around the league and I'm seeing where the jobs are, I can't see him leaving at the moment. I think Kyle Shanahan keeps him for another year. But equally, it probably sounds a little bit harsh on Wilkes. If he goes, I don't think Kyle Shanahan will have any problem replacing him. I
No.
think, like I said, the core of the defense is there. You've got your Fred Warner, you've got your Dre Greenlaw. The defense kind of manages itself. It would be interesting. I mean, if Robert Saleh doesn't see out his tenure at the Jets, you've got a conversation there. Do you bring Salah back? But I'm surprised Wilkes hasn't had more looks for teams around the league looking for head coach job. He did a great job as the interim head coach at the Panthers. As much as there's a lot of criticism on his tenure at the Niners, if you look at the defense, numbers wise, performance wise, I think we've done well, even when we struggled. But if you were to ask me now, yeah, I think Wilkes is back next year. Do you agree, or have you got a different opinion?
Not really impressed. Uh, and I would like to see a change away from the wide nine. I would like to see Chris Kasarik move on as well. I just think that defense has kind of seen its days. I would like to see a more aggressive defense, a more multiple in its looks and its fronts. Uh, the Niners are such a basic defense as far as just rushing for and dropping coverage, rushing for and dropping, whoever in coverage is. It gets to a point where it's like they're so predictable on defense that teams know exactly how to attack them. And then you talk about certain teams who have these multiple looks, and they come at the quarterback a million different ways and confuse the quarterback, and they have late shifts and zone blitz and everything. And the Niners are just, they sit there and they essentially hope that their front four get home. And I don't know. I've kind of, for me personally, I've kind of grown tired of their current defense. It's worked well, but it's progressively, as the years have gone on, maybe less effective. And I just thought this year with Kosaric and with Coach, why is his name Wilkes? I just thought they took a major step back on defense this year. It's just, I can't believe it. It was just like you add two pretty badass pass rushers in Gregory and Chase Young, and you essentially down the stretch get worse than better, and you have issues stopping the run. I don't know. To me, it's. I mean, I'm just a impatient individual, but I don't know.
No, I
We'll
know what
see.
you're saying about I know what you're saying about the wide nine. I mean, the Lions attack that basic form of defense well. Power football, 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets. You knew what the Lions were going to do. that were going to run that ball. And like you said, when you're in
Mm-hmm.
that wide nine, I just think the way Wilkes has that, it'd be interesting to see whether he had some elite help on the backfield. I've been impressed with Javarius Ward, but could you imagine if he had an elite safety, if he had two youngsters at the back there, if he had a similar setup to the Ravens? And you're right. I suppose with Kyle Shanahan, we're used to all these motions and zones. And then when we do the prep for the 49er Faithful UK, this year we've tried something new. We do a scouting report on the opposition team because we're all Niners fans. We don't need to talk about the Niners week in, week out. And I was cast with the defensive side of the ball. And then you go and watch what the coordinator of the Bengals is doing. And then you go and look at what the Vikings coordinator is doing. And you think, yeah, actually, this is different. And, the Lions last week under Dan Campbell are very aggressive. And I know he's not the coordinator, but he sets the tone. I just think sometimes Kyle Shanahan has more of a say in that side of the ball than what we might let on. And I think Wilkes is doing what he's being asked to do. So I suppose you're right. I think he's a steady defensive coordinator, but he doesn't get me excited. He hasn't got that blood rushing. I love
totally
D'Amico
different,
Ryans.
totally different emotional.
I loved Robert Saleh. I have a soft spot for the Jets because Saleh's there. Delighted for the Texans because of D'Amico Ryans. But I think what Kyle tried, and I've got this analogy wrong. I think Wilkes was more like your old-fashioned interim head teacher, your old school teacher who was just brought in to basically just make sure everything's running okay. And I think they expected more from the defensive front. I have been surprised this year that the pressures haven't converted to sacks. And like you said, Chase Young needs to up his game a little bit. But I think Nick Bosa's been better than people give him credit for this year. It's Nick Bosa. And when you've got Nick Bosa on your team, his level is up here. So when it drops a little bit, you kind of notice it.
He was doing well in the game. He got those 2 sacks that he kicked. He was kicking butt. Do you consider this game to be a Kyle Shanahan legacy game?
Well, he's up against Andy Reid. Knock on Andy Reid until he beat us in 2020 was Andy Reid always going to be the bridesmaid, never the bride. And it's ironic that Shanahan is coming into this. He's been impressive in his own right this postseason, Shanahan, but not for the reasons I expected. Now, people know the Niners, as you've said, for this kick-ass offense. We run up the score on teams, we run the ball, we've got all these zones and orbits. But against the Packers and against the Lions, what Shanahan has shown me is he's been able to bring the team back. And that was the knock on Kyle. He was the bully that could always beat up on the poor kid. But when he needed to coach and to be calm and make the adjustments, they've shown tremendous character and praise, poise in handling that adversity. And I believe that comes from the top. And like I said earlier, I think that serves as well against the Chiefs. So in 2017, when Shanahan took over, cast your mind back to what a dumpster truck this team was.
Oh, yeah.
Chip Kelly, Jim Tomsula. As I said at the start,
it was bad.
The game that always springs to mind before Kyle Shanahan comes is we played the Rams Monday Night Football. They had those god-awful yellow uniforms. We were wearing the black ones. Jared Goff was the quarterback. Brian Hoyer was the quarterback. It was a 1 a.m. UK start on a Monday. So it meant the game's not finishing until 5 on a Tuesday. I'm not getting any sleep. Brian Hoyer threw a pick 6 in the first 7 seconds, and I knew we weren't winning that game. And you think to when Shanahan and Lynch came in and they said, we want this team to compete. And they didn't mean they wanted to go on a one and done. And I think if you look at the work as a whole, they've changed this franchise around. Throughout the last 5 years, we've been in the NFC Championship game. We look at the culture, we look at the ethos. So for me, if we lose this game, I don't think it affects Kyle Shanahan's legacy personally, because I think the team he's built is a contender. But if he wins this game, I think it gives him that. Until he gets a ring on his finger, the knock on Kyle Shanahan is going to be, it's all pretty with all these designs and all your game planning, but can you get it done in the big game?
Yeah.
But I'm confident. How about you? Do you see this as his legacy game?
Oh, I think it's a massive legacy game. They win this game. I think it takes pressure off him. I think it takes pressure off a lot of people. The Niners, like, there's so much riding in this game. They built this team from the ground where there was nothing but scraps to the roster that we have now, and it's one of those put up or shut up moments. I still think he's an incredible coach, and eventually he will break through somewhere. I just want that somewhere to be with the 49ers because I think, why not? And he has history. There's connection. There's McCaffrey's dad played here. His father coached here for a bit. It's just it all connects, the past and the present. It's all part of that, like, Bill Walsh thing that started in 1979, and it's just everything from the past to the present connects, and it would just be poetic for them to win it, and his father be in the stands, and McCaffrey be there, and it would be awesome. I think there's a lot of players on the 49ers who love Kyle, and Trent Williams is one of them, that deserve a championship for all the time and effort, and their body being hurt and bruised and battered, and they finally get a ring. So it's a Kyle legacy game for me. Do your best. If you lose, doing your best, then whatever. But choking, not calling your best game, being passive, not being aggressive. I mean, you got to come out of this game offensively, and you have to be aggressive offensively. You cannot go into this game, moving around quietly like a mouse, against a Hall of Fame coach, quarterback, and tight end, and think you're going to win. You have to come out and be the aggressor. And I think if they do, they have a really good shot at winning. So it'll be interesting. They're doing a lot of their stuff this week, from what I heard.
Yeah,
A lot of their prep, because next week is all. Yeah, next week is all the promo and interviews.
They had 2 days off, and I saw the footage earlier of Kittle and Bosa dressed up. But when you talk about legacy, isn't it pretty ironic that Kyle Shanahan never needed an elite running back? He could plug any running back into the system, but you put CMC in there, and you just see what he can do with it. And I suppose you're right. If you look at the people he's going to beat, if we win this one, he doesn't just get a Super Bowl ring on beating an average team. He's beat, as you've said there, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame quarterback. I do think the way this Chiefs team set up, they're not ready for a shootout, where the previous Chiefs teams probably were. So I do think that gives us a bit of an advantage. But
it's true. I didn't think about that.
Just
J. Harris Meadows, he says, from Jump Street, 100 miles with their hair on fire. I was like, wait, what? And then I read it. 100% agree on that one, man. Let's see here. What is Paul Hope's Super Bowl meal of choice when he watches, or just did football in general? What does someone from the UK eat when they watch football? Because in America it's pizza and wings. I would assume it's a little different over on your side of the world.
It depends on what time the game is. So Sunday, the NFC Championship game, it was a 1 a.m. start here. So pizza, chili. I like red hot chili Doritos, like tortilla chips.
Nice.
Obviously, I don't drink alcohol, so soft drinks only for me.
Neither do I. Me neither.
But when you sent me the question through, meal of choice. So if I was watching at home, I would do a full kind of American themed spread. There's a big market in the UK for American crisps, American sweets, American kind of like cans of pop that you can get that you don't get over here. So I would have probably gone and done that setup. But I'm delighted to tell you, because you watched our show last night, that the 49ers have confirmed the official watch party for the Super Bowl. So there's going to be 500 of the 49er faithful UK at Elland Road, which is the home of Leeds United, which is a Premier League stadium. And we're going to be there watching the game. So they'll have burgers, pizzas, they'll have a bar for the people who drink alcohol. But it's going to be absolutely amazing to watch this game, because we don't get to do that in the UK. Because the NFL's on a Sunday, the games for us are 6 p.m, 9 p.m, 1 in the morning. And when you support a West Coast team like us, your games tend to be either the 9 o'clock one or the 1 in the morning. And
Right.
The bars don't stay open. So our community started doing. We'd get together once a year. We'd do a bit like what Breezy and Chapman do. We'd do what's called the invasion road trips. We'd pick a city. So we'd say, right, this year, Aaron, we're going to go to Manchester and we're going to watch the Buccaneer game. Anybody's welcome to come. But since Nick Clark's got involved, and I don't know if you saw the footage, they threw the watch party against the Browns at London and they flew Joe Staley over. So Joe Staley partied with us. Joe Staley was an absolute legend. He didn't just turn up, get a photograph and sign a couple of photographs. He stood in the mosh pit with us all. He was high-fiving everyone. He was flying the UK flag. And he has a love for the UK. And he was saying similar to when content creators find out where we're from. He's like, this is amazing. He's like, this is like any sports bar back in the States. And we were explaining to him that we don't have this week on, week in. But for the Super Bowl, I always go out for the Super Bowl because when you watch the NFL in the UK, it's a lonely existence. You're normally sat in your front room, like you said, wife and kids are upstairs asleep. You're trying to be quiet. You try not to celebrate too loud. But because these Super Bowls start at 11:30, no matter which teams are there, it's a bit of a celebration. Some people call it the Oscars of the NFL. So there's always casinos, sports bars that stay open late. So, but my go-to choice to answer your question, if I was coming to yours to watch the game, I'd be happy with pizza, wings, and some Coca-Cola because I'm a non-drinker. So I'd
See,
be
I don't drink either. I usually drink ginger ale. I'm a big ginger ale. What do they call it? I forget the name of it, but yeah, pizza and wings. I think one year I had either lasagna or stuffed shells. My mom made food, and I was just like, "This is different for the Super Bowl." Usually, we're not watching the Niners, so it's like, we're not stressed out. I have to eat before the game. I have to be. I can't because I can't eat during the game, especially if we're losing. I'm gonna be like,
yeah.
ah.
I won't be eating
So
during the game. So what we'll be doing, we'll be heading to Leeds City Centre mid-afternoon. We'll be getting together. We'll be having pizza, chips, lasagnas. Italian food goes down quite well in the UK. But when the game starts, it's going to be like we're at the stadium. And I know that sounds stupid, but there's going to be 500 of us watching on the big screen. We're going to
that's
go through the
awesome.
emotions together. I'll put plenty of footage on social media. But so I'm guessing you're watching at home. You're going to just be pacing the floors.
Oh yeah, I'll either watch on my TV or my brother's TV. Of course, my mom will probably be watching, and she'll be nervous for me and telling me that I'm too old to get stressed out and that I need to relax and it's just a game. And then if they win, she's probably gonna hug me, and my brother will hug me, and then my nephew, who hasn't talked to me in months, maybe he'll call me. We're having a little bit of a family issue, and we haven't talked. So maybe if the Niners win, since he's a Niners fan, that'll be the olive branch, right? That we need to extend to be like, hey, by the way, Niners won. What are you doing? You should come over. I'll
Yeah.
definitely. I could possibly, if somebody offered me an alcoholic beverage, maybe just once. I don't drink at all, like you said, but just to go back and be like, here's a beer or a White Claw or something, and just drink it, celebrate, go to bed. 49er Minded says, were you happy when the clock hits 0? Oh, against the Lions, that's the only time I could freaking relax. With the kneel downs and the runs and stuff, I was like, and then even the onside kick, I was just like, oh boy, it was. I was stressing out until that clock hit 0. And by the way, Bashar, thanks for coming through. I appreciate it. Let's see here, what else we got here? This is the last couple. Two things, and then we'll get out of here. Brandon Ayuk, offseason priority. The Niners. There was an article, I forgot who placed the article, but it said he's an offseason priority to re-sign him. I'll take Chase Young if he comes back cheap, but if he wants any money, I'd say, get lost. Do you agree?
Yeah. Ayuk, I've been a big Ayuk fan, and it isn't just because I've got his jersey. I said at the start of the season, he's our true wide receiver one. And what this team has shown, when you've got that elite traits that they're looking for, the pair, Bosa, Warner, Williams, Kittle, they don't let these guys go, Aaron. I said the article I saw a couple of months ago was like, it's either Chase Young or Brandon Ayuk. If that's the choice that I'm faced with, I'm taking Brandon Ayuk all day long. I've just started getting into game tape breakdown and reviews. I'm a fan. I'm nowhere near the level what you guys are. When you watch Brandon Ayuk run a route, when you watch him blocking, when you watch him do everything that Kyle Shanahan wants for a wide receiver in this scheme, I can't see how we let him go. The culture, the energy, everything that he brings. So he's going to be a niner for me. I think similar to what we've seen with others, the contract won't get done straight away. So we'll say to people, don't panic. It's what these Niners do. We tend to kind of, don't know whether they just want to give us content creators something to talk about because they never get the deals done early. But I can't see Brandon Ayuk going anywhere else, to be honest.
I don't think he will either. I think the Niners are going to keep him. And as far as the pass rush, it kind of fits in with my last question. We have 11 draft picks. I know it's off-season talk, but real quickly, with 11 draft picks, regardless of Super Bowl outcome, what is the major draft need for you? I have 2, but I'll let you go first.
So 2. We're pretty good at drafting with one eye on what we need the players to do. So I think Gibson retires if we win the Super Bowl. I think Ryan was only ever brought in as short term. So I think straight away you're looking at the back end, you're looking at safeties, you're looking at corners. Sammy Womack hasn't really done it, which my good friend Lee Gowland will be throwing stuff at the telly. But like you said, Chase Young, I don't see him being re-signed. Drake Jackson, the jury's still out on him. So I think you look at your pass rush, you look at your offensive line. Feliciano's been a great pickup, but is he the future? Trent Williams isn't getting any younger. I love Trent Williams. He's the GOAT. But it'll be nice to go into a draft and not have to worry about quarterback and not have to worry about wide receivers. But I think we load up on the defensive side of the ball, and defensive line is where I would be focusing those draft picks.
I agree. I would go either offensive tackle or offensive tackle or edge. But depending on how this offseason goes, I think edge might become more priority just because we need somebody across from Bosa. Because like I said, Chase Young, unless he is going to eat a cheap deal, if he thinks he's going to get paid after the performance and the effort that he put in this second half of the season after those 3 games where we did really well, then he can kick rocks. And then off the offensive tackle wise, if there's somebody in the draft that you think you can trade up to go get, say maybe pick 17 through maybe 25, and you're willing to take a couple draft picks, take that late round and go jump up and get them, then I say do that. But if they're going to stay where they are, I'd pick an edge guy at the end of the first, and then try in the second round to go and get an offensive tackle. They have 11 picks. I don't think they're going to use all of them, but I think they're going to use a good majority of them. They like to redshirt guys every time we think, why are we drafting this guy? And then, somebody moves on and then we plug them right in. So safety, like you said, maybe another corner. Womack hasn't really panned out. Ambry Thomas has been a little bit underwhelming recently. So to me, it's a rich get richer type thing. I think they still have a really solid core of really good players. I would like to see them upgrade that offensive line a little bit. Maybe get another tackle, maybe get a center. I think Feliciano might be the right guard of the future. I don't know if you agree with that. I'd say Spencer Burford can sayonara unless he wants to be a backup.
Feliciano's been better than I expected.
And
it's
a lot of people
great.
prefer him. So
yeah, and they've tried to give Burford the reps, haven't they? They've tried where they've brought him in and they put Feliciano back. Brendel
commits penalties all the time.
He does, yeah. Brendel's been solid at centre, but the way this team is built, like you said, they've got an eye on the future. So, see, I don't watch a lot of college football because that's on a Saturday, and my good lady's like, you have the telly all day on a Sunday for football. You're not watching it on a Saturday. So I plug into the experts who know better than me. But I'd said ahead of this draft, I didn't think we'd use all our draft picks. And we used all our draft picks and then some with the undrafted free agents. Yeah, I agree with the chat there. Robert Beal, I think he's someone they've got an eye on. Gregory hasn't been great. Like you said, Gregory Young were expected to add something to this pass rush. They haven't. Like you said, Chase Young, if he thinks he's getting paid, he's deluded. But that's a conversation for another day. I trust this team with what they do in the draft room.
Yep.
Apart from maybe don't take any running backs in the third round, Kyle. Jake Moody will be all right, everybody.
I was so happy about the Jake Moody pick, and then I realized that we could have gotten DeJuan Jones at tackle. And so once I realized that, I'm still mad. You know, we could have gotten a kicker. We got a kicker in free agency, but hey, we're in the Super Bowl, so we can't really complain. Listen, man, it's been great. It's what, probably 9:30 where you are, so you probably are getting ready to go to Betty Bye.
Yeah.
Everybody that was here, either from the UK or my normal viewers, I appreciate everybody coming through and commenting. Sorry I didn't really touch on a lot of the comments, but I wanted to hear from Paul, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. I did. I want to do this again. Hell, I wouldn't even mind doing a weekly deal if we can work something out while I'm out with my knee thing. That would be fun. It would be very, very fun because I'm trying to get, keep venturing out and talking to different people. Why not, right? Change it up. So everybody, thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to, what's the word I'm looking for, that you have going on that you want to talk about coming up this week?
Well, I just want to say thank you. I know you've moved your schedule around. I do like to connect with content creators. It's good to get a different opinion. It's good to talk football because, as you can imagine, I don't get to talk a lot of football to different people. So I do appreciate everyone in the chat who's come along. We have been supporting what you and Ted do. We've been sharing the links out
Thank
there.
you.
So we are trying to reach 1,000 subs on YouTube. We have 800, which is amazing for us across the pond. So we are at 49er Faithful UK. We will be back next week with our live show, and we will be doing a special edition preview show of the Super Bowl. We
Nice.
are opening up our channel to guests very soon, as you saw last night. So I'm definitely going to get you on our channel. I just like to go on other people's channels and kind of touch base with your fan base, but we
Yeah.
will get you on. And like you said, it would be definitely up there to do another one. And it might be interesting to do one with me, you, Ted, and possibly Red Jet Shell. Who knows? Give the people
Yes,
what
that
they
was.
want.
You know what? I was thinking about that, Red Jet. If you're in the chat, I was like, who could I have on that I haven't had on yet? And I'm like, she's literally in the chat all the time. I've seen her on. So yeah, Red Jet would be definitely an interesting. I've seen her a little bit on another channel, a very small amount. I was doing something else. So yeah, that would be that would be a fun one. I would definitely be down with that. I think Red Jet would be too.
Yeah. So no,
You rang, say less. Yay. Yeah. All right. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a great evening if you're on the if you're in the UK. Rest of the afternoon if you're in the United States. Take care, everyone. See ya.